Forbidden knowledge, adventures, excitement, treason, betrayal, ancient knowledge, wisdom untold. I'm not talking about daycare or even high school, let alone Ivy League colleges. Ever hiding in plain sight, I'm talking about the 81 books of terror that I'm sharing with you these days on the Bible projects presently under PyKJV over on GitHub. Simply by locating and opening up the kjv.py file once you download the project from GitHub by choosing the code and then the download zip option over on GitHub. Once the download has completed, we can open the file. In this case, I'm running on Windows. Copy the zip file, at this time over to a new folder that we'll call the SOJ for the Stick of Joseph. And we'll paste that archive, right click on it so as to extract everything into the folder. And once everything has been extracted, we can change directory over to the PyKJV folder. And once you have Python installed, and if you don't have Python installed, when you click on something with a Python extension, Microsoft Windows, at least time of this recording, will ask to install Python 3. And once you've got Python 3 installed, all you have to do is either press 5 or click on Run to run the module. Expanding the screen and scrolling down, you'll see that we have the 1.0 release of what I'm calling the Stick of Joseph. And we have a lot of features and functions here, beginning with the idea of listing all these 81 books of terror. And the reason why I call them the books of terror is because people are afraid to death of the Bible, let alone the Book of Mormon. But listing the books, you see we have a lot of things going on here. And first and foremost, you probably want to push R to get a random verse from the random reader. And here we see Proverbs 27:14, the very first and ancient quote that I've ever seen. And by either pressing the question mark, for example, or any one of these mysterious characters, we can see the help that's associated with pressing each and every one of these ancient or modern glyphs, which will allow us to either toggle a star on or off for whatever verse we're browsing, or manage notes that we can attach and remove from any one of these classic quotes, or simply go to the next or previous page by obviously pressing either N or P. So assuming we simply would like to star, for example, or toggle a favorite next to one of our quotes and maybe even add a note, in this case we just simply say this is a test. Once we see our quotes on the left, of course, we'll see our notes as well as our stars on the right. Quitting the submenu, of course, brings us back to our main reader. And while we have the ability, for example, to take a look at what I'm calling this here a Bible number and copying it, so we can press V so as to get to see our Bible reader. We can pick any book we want of the 81, arbitrarily Genesis, but even though we only go from 1 to 1533 verse numbers with Genesis, wouldn't prevent us from going up, for example, and copying our previous verse identifier before pasting it in and taking a look at that as well as our notes. In addition to the random reader, we have a classic reader, which will allow us, for example, to remember that we're looking with the book of Proverbs, in this case, an Old Testament book of 20, entering in the book number 20, for example, and then taking a look at the fact that we have the 27th chapter and the 14th verse allow us to say 27, and then 14 to see our test notes again, let alone hitting enter to peruse other Proverbs as well. A new feature added just today is the ability to take a look at our notes by simply adding that notation of @ to see all the notes we have in there, and then our stars, for example, to take a look at everything that we had starred as well. And another new feature added just the other day, literally yesterday or Sunday, was the ability to take a look at, for example, adding a word, for example, love, as well as hate, so as to search for loves or hate. For example, if we didn't want to have anything like, for example, Nabu, which isn't in there, we'll just show you how to use a minus sign. We'll see that we have 37 verses that have both love and hate inside of them. And all we have to do is likewise go up to each and every one to see, for example, some famous quotations regarding these two concepts. as we see in John 15:19, or any random ones, for example, that talk about Jacob and Esau, which really are advanced topics that you won't be able to cover. Certainly not in the notes that I put in the book so far. Going back to take a look at our notes, of course, if we wanted to edit a note, for example, the note we have here on Sarah Bible 15440, which I have starred. Since we're going to be using a Sarah number, we're going to want to go into the Sarah Reader. Any book number would do, and then pasting our note. To note that I can go ahead and simply toggle that star on or off, or edit any note simply by using the edit, rather than simply adding a new note, which I could do. For example, we could go right ahead and use the @ sign to type in .edit. So as to, for example, edit number 2, in which case I'll simply say, let's get rid of it. So, and rather than change it, I'll simply hit enter, and it'll ask us if I want to delete that note. Obviously I do. And now we see the note has been deleted. A fun project to work on, let alone work with. Our items on the to-do list include exporting our notes and stars to HTML files and other content that we can share with other people, but at the risk of over-educating any one of those who are bold enough to take a look at the 81 Books of Terror, feel free to take a moment and download the Stick of Joseph and start enjoying your archaeological spelunking into common knowledge, the knowledge of the ancient and some modern times as well, by enjoying the Stick of Joseph.